Hey there, superstar. Welcome to Time Management for Coaches. In this video, I'm going to share some of what I've learned the hard way, as I often do, how to manage your time, how to structure it, how to organize it, how to fill it so that you can get more done with more grace and ease, more joy, have more vacation, more fun time, and take care of yourself better. Now, before I dive into the actual content and the how, I want to bring to you this kind of metaphor that I found really powerful for thinking about time, right? So I didn't make this metaphor up. I actually don't know who did. And I invite you to, after this video, you can search on YouTube for rocks, pebbles, sand demonstration. And in fact, I'm going to do a demonstration soon because I keep talking about this concept and I never do a demonstration. So I'm going to do one next time. Okay, so think about two jars, right? And you want to fill the jars as much as you possibly can. So let's imagine that in jar number one, you put in some sand, you put in a bunch of pebbles, and then you put in some rocks, right? You're going to end up with a lot of empty space in this jar, and you won't have filled it up completely to capacity. In this new jar, let's do it instead and fill in the biggest things first. We do the rocks first, then we drop in the pebbles, and the pebbles fill in all the space around the rocks, and then we do the sand, and that fills in all the space around the pebbles and the rocks. You can even add a whole bunch of water to that, and it'll fill in all the little gaps. And you will have gotten way more into this jar by putting the big items in first and then following up with the smaller ones. Now, this is a metaphor for time. What people generally do when they're not being super intentional is that they let life's busy tasks, everybody else's priorities, all the little things like email and responding to text messages and voicemails and all that, they let that kind of fill up a big chunk of their time. And then what happens is, it comes the end of the day and they're exhausted and they're tired and they don't want to go to the gym or they don't want to do their meditation, right? The important things get kind of shoved aside. I know we've all had that experience. And so the idea of this metaphor is that we put in the most important things in our life first, and then we let all the busy work and everything kind of fill in the remaining time that we allot to it. And what ends up happening is that we get more done, we get more of the important things done, and we show up, we're healthier, we're happier, we feel better at the same time. So before I dive into the three kind of core strategies that I use, I want to talk about some tools that I use. I like to use an online calendar. In my opinion, it is the absolute only way to go. And this from a person that spent years using a written calendar. I loved writing in my things into my calendar. It was just like a pleasure for me. And every year I loved cracking open my new calendar. But the truth is that you can do so much more with these virtual online calendars. I use Google Calendar and I absolutely swear by it. And I resisted it so much. I used my Apple Calendar for a few years, but the syncing with it got funky. And now Google Calendar, I absolutely love it. I also use a calendaring software, meaning a scheduling software that my clients, my prospects, people in my life use to schedule time with me. And I absolutely swear by that too. I'm less attached to a specific software. I invite you to try whatever works for you. I use Acuity. I've used Schedule Once as well, or I still use Schedule Once for something specific. And then I've heard great things about Calendly, and I'm sure that there are so many others out there that you could check out. But those are my three that I know the best. So now let's get into how to do this, how to structure your time more effectively. Now, a big shout out right now to Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Workweek. I read that book many years ago, and his whole strategy of batching really stuck with me. I mean, I've read the book a couple times, and the batching part is magnificent. I'm a big believer in doing similar items together and batching a nice big chunk of time to do them. So for example, instead of checking email, a bunch of times a day, check it once or twice a day and compress all that time into one focused session rather than having your focus diluted over the course of the whole day. So that's kind of a foundational component of what I'm going to present, because, my goal is to batch out most things in my life, most things in my business, I organize in larger chunks of time. I find that helps me at least get a lot more focused and a lot more done. That brings me to number 2, which is structuring and scheduling out those important time blocks, those big rocks. Put in the things that matter first. Put in the things that hit the deep needs that you have first, like family time, workout time, meditation time, client service time, financial review time, creative time, play time, walk the dog time, right? So whatever those things are, personally I say, jokingly, but actually seriously, if it isn't in my calendar, it doesn't exist. And so that's why when you look at my calendar, you will see every day completely filled, not with stuff, but a lot of it with space. So you'll see from the moment I get up in the morning, I've got my morning practice, my morning ritual is in there, my meditation time. Neo is in there, my dog. I walk him in the mornings. I have downtime in the mornings. I have breakfast time. I have coffee time. I have prep time for my day. So all of that, and I can play with it, but it's kind of like open space that I, acknowledge the priorities that I have and the intention that I have. I also block out downtime, vacation time. And I'm going to talk in a minute about how to look at that from a time perspective, like when you're going to take vacations. But basically any time off, I block that in my calendar. Number 1, for my own benefit so that I can see it and know that I've got it. And number 2, so that nobody can schedule onto my calendar at those times, right? So if I'm using a calendar scheduling tool, I want to make sure that clients are not able to book on my vacation time or on my downtime or my self-care time. Oh, another thing that you'll want to consider putting in there is really important is your sales time. Oh, and here's an idea. This is something that I've recently started doing that I highly recommend is color coding your different categories. So for example, I'm going to use myself as an example because I'm most intimately associated with my own calendar. So forgive me for talking about myself the whole time. But in this case, it's the best way I think to convey to you how you could work. So I have yellow for to-dos. Yellow is for my own to-do stuff, like busy work, getting in the email, doing stuff like that. I've got green, dark green for sales. I've got light green for travel. So when I'm driving, when I'm flying, when I'm going to the airport, stuff like that. I've got purple for when I'm presenting or performing or doing the stuff that I love to do. I have gray for my creative time. I probably should change the color to something more fun. But anyway, gray is for my creative time. I've got blue for my client meetings, my dark blue for my client service meetings when I'm coaching people. I've got light blue for my internal meetings with my own team. I think I already said that I have green for sales, and I have peach. A lot of peach is for all my self-care. It's for, my spiritual sisterhood group. It's for my walks with Neo. All of that is in peach. And so what I love about that is when I see my calendar, I can see the balance. I can be like, oh, there's no green on this. There's no sales. I need to maybe open up a chunk of time for sales or move something around, right? Which brings me to number 3. And before I get into number 3, I want to invite you to like this video, subscribe to my channel. Would love to hear about your time management hacks. I'm always learning and always improving in this area. So number 3 is looking at certain time frames. It's like getting intentional about your rhythms and seasons. So I'm not going to dive into the seasons of Sacred Feminine or Nani Leia's teachings around the seasons, but I will say that I believe it's really important to align your rhythms throughout the year. So what I mean by that is really looking at your whole year. And in this case, sometimes I do draw this out on paper before I enter it into the calendar. Not always, but looking at your whole year holistically and saying, all right, over the course of the year, right? I know that the winter season, I know that Christmas and New Year's gets crazy. I know that I'm going to want to travel. I know I'm going to want to take some downtime, hang out with my family. Block that out now for the next year and the next year. Just go ahead and block it out. Make it a recurring thing, like 2 weeks at Christmas or 3 weeks at Christmas or whatever works for you. Another thing you might think of is like, every summer I really like to take a few weeks off, take a little sabbatical and create something or go somewhere, or, whatever that is, like go ahead and just block it in the calendar, boom, make it a recurring so that it comes up the next year. And that way you've already got some of this foundational stuff. You can always change it, right? So there's the annual, there's the vacations, important holidays, downtime, and then take a look kind of quarterly. So quarterly, there's certain things that I want to always have in place. Like I want to have a mini trip, a mini vacation, maybe a week or so every single quarter, and maybe a couple of 2 or 3 long weekends. I like to take a lot of time off, right? Because I work hard and I work through the weekends a lot. Like I'm justifying myself. Look at that. I do a lot of retreats and weekend stuff, so it's good for me to also block out some downtime so that I'm not doing anything on the weekends. So I like to have some long weekends. Take a look at your monthly schedule. Like, what do you want to experience on a monthly basis? Do you want to have a long weekend every single month, or do you want to do your financial reviews every month? Stick that in there. So we're kind of like connecting the previous section about categories of things you want to do with this section about the rhythms. Like, if we go back to the previous session, forgive me, I'm looking at my computer, and we want to say, all right, every month we want to have a financial review. Every quarter we want to have a financial review, and every year we want to have an annual financial review. Okay, go ahead and put those in the calendar. Another thing you want to think about is on a sales basis, right? Are there rhythms and seasons in your sales? Like for me, I just keep sales kind of evergreen. Every week I've got a certain amount of time that I'm dedicating to that, and then I'm always filling my retreats. But if you have a launch, you'll want to have some time that's focused during that launch period that's more intentional, more intensive, where you have more time available for sales during those launch periods. And then finally, but definitely, maybe even the most importantly, no, maybe not, is your weekly rhythms and your daily rhythms. So for example, now what I'm doing, and this is new and it's always evolving, is I'm taking Wednesdays, full, complete Wednesdays, unless I have a speaking engagement or something, and I'm dedicating it to my creative projects, to my books, to my art, to the things that I'm doing that fill me up, that I enjoy. And so that's my Wednesdays. And I've also taken on a weekly basis Monday mornings to do my personal prep. So I don't take meetings, I don't do client work or anything. Mondays all the way until about 2 p.m. are for me to do what I need to do. If I need to do a doctor's appointment or take Neo to the vet or something like that, that's what I've got for my Monday mornings. And then Fridays I block off just because sometimes I've had a really long week and I want to take it off, or sometimes I have to catch up, right? So Friday afternoons, I don't let anything get booked. So I've got like beginning of the week, end of the week, middle of the week, I've got some space for me. I have intentional space on Monday afternoons for sales. I've set aside most of my Tuesdays and Thursdays are for my clients, for meetings and for supporting clients. And then Fridays is kind of like an open day. And a lot of times I'm leading retreats or doing speaking engagements on Friday. So these are some examples of things you might want to consider in your weekly and daily practices. And also from a daily perspective, and this might be obvious to you, but it was a huge aha breakthrough for me, which is like you can start working anytime you want. You do not have to start at 9 a.m. just because everybody in the corporate world does. I personally start most of my days at 10 or even sometimes 11 a.m. because that's what works for me, because that gives me the ability to have my nice, long, intentional morning so that I can really have the energy to serve people until later in the day, which I prefer to work a little later than to start earlier. So that's just me. I invite you to figure out what works for you, and I hope that this video was helpful. And I invite you, if you want to learn more about how I structure my business or you want me to help you structure yours, let's connect. We can do that if you go to superstaractivator.com/go.